I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship. My name is Sarah Lubick, and with me today is Jason Lidstrom, who is the founder of several tech startups, an SFU alumni, and a good friend of the school already. And you started your first company, you weren't even Title Media when you weren't even out of SFU yet.
Yeah, I started the first business with another SFU student, a guy named Bart, and we were both students at the time. And I actually did it with a year left of university, and I started it in a self-directed co-op program. So it was a very exciting time.
And you also founded with Bart Advisor Websites.
Yep.
And Advisor Websites just won an award, didn't it?
Yeah, we've won 2 awards. We won. We're one of the top 5 employers in BC.
Nice.
Yeah, in the Small Business Innovation Awards. And we're also given an award for the best service provider by the Wealth Professional Association, which is more of a national event. So,
all of your companies are known for having very strong cultures.
yes.
And so you have 4 cultural sort of standpoints. Create wow experiences, think forward, make it happen, and build a team we love. And before we started, you told me about the wall of
wow. So
the wall of wow.
I'll back up like a tiny step. I think core values in a company are a great way to create alignment and direction. And if you have a few simple rules, you can hire by those rules, you can fire by those rules. And anytime you have a really big, tough decision, you can always go back to your core values, and it makes things really simple and fast to get to the same conclusion. We celebrate our core values every week. We do a team meeting where we get everybody in one room. It's kind of like a big room like this, where everybody sits down, and we spend a good part of that meeting talking about our core values and are we living the values or are we not living the values? And specifically, one of the values is wow, the client. Like, how do you blow their socks off? How do you make them raving fans? And we have an entire wall of our office called the Wall of Wow. And anytime we get a good testimonial in, whether it's like a tweet or whether it's an email, we'll print it out, cut it out, and stick it to the wall. And so we're like really trying to live our values and live it in a daily manner. So yeah, and it creates for like and building a team we love. I think that I don't know if there's any like relationships happening in the company, but there's a lot of best friends inside of the company, and these are people who didn't know each other until they joined the company. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I hope we have a lot of those at SFU too.
Yeah.
And so your next company is Bucketlist.
Yes.
Which has one of the best value propositions I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So Bucketlist is a company that is devoted to helping people fulfill their dreams.
That's correct. Yeah. So I don't know how many people have a bucket list. A handful. So whether you call it a bucket list or not, what I realized a long time ago is that everybody has goals, has dreams, goals, and objectives, and bucket list is designed to provide inspiration and also to give you good stories on how to achieve your goals. So specifically, we have about 4 million different ideas on the website. So there's lots of ideas to choose from. But what I think is really powerful is we have over 300,000 members who are part of the community, and they're completing goals every day. And what we try to do is we share an inspirational idea, then we share success stories underneath it. So on the big side of things, we have a guy named Michael Horst who's climbed Everest 4 times, and he shares his success stories on the site. But then we have it crosses the entire human experience. It's people getting married, falling in love. It's pretty cool.
So you and Bart, you started several companies together. So how is it to work with your best friend?
So unlike other business partnerships, we have a lot of the same strengths, and we also share some of the same weaknesses. And I think traditionally you're supposed to find people that complement one another. Like maybe one person's really good at operations, and the other person's really great at leadership and sales. But for us, we have like a ton of overlap, which has its pluses and minuses. But I think the heart of the relationship is we're just super good friends, and we used to have this friction and occasional fights around all sorts of silly issues. Like we'd have blowouts and like the bank lineup at the TD Bank, right, over the stupidest issues. And then one day we started doing this weekly meeting where we talked about our core values, and these are separate from the business, like what's deeply meaningful to us. Mm-hmm. And it really got us aligned, and like about what's important and what's not important. I literally did it today at starting at 7:30. Bart and I were on the phone as I was driving out to Surrey to this conversation. we're just kind of talking about all the big stuff, right? Like health and fitness, personal life, financial goals. Yeah, it was neat. So it's a great way to create alignment. But big picture, how has it been working with a best friend on a business? It's been awesome. Mostly awesome, right? So
Except for those fights.
Yeah, it's like I'd say it averages like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for overall happiness and fun.
How did you end up getting into those meetings? Because it can be, you're a communications person, so you know that it's sometimes hard to step out of the back and forth of any kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So how did you end up saying we're going to make this part of who we are?
I read this book called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, and it talked about the importance of core values, whether it's in a business or in your personal life. And they also talk a lot about, I think sometimes in entrepreneurship, or maybe as a business owner, you separate my personal life's over here and then the business is over here, when in fact those two things are deeply interwoven. Like you spend, in the early days I was spending like 12, 14-hour days on the business, so obviously that had big impacts on my personal life. So we had to very quickly reconcile and bring those two worlds together so that we're and one guy can't be working 14 hours and the other guy's working 8. So we always had to create alignment on what's important in both our personal lives and the work life, and how hard should we be working, what deeply matters to us. So we read the book, we did a meeting, we came up with what we thought were our values, and then we just started doing a weekly meeting to talk about the big important stuff. So it's a great book, it's an awesome book, so highly recommend it. What
was the first time you were exposed to entrepreneurship?
You know, this is funny. My first experience in a very real way was actually at SFU. When I came to SFU, I didn't know anybody. A lot of my friends had gone to other universities or Douglas College. And I found out there was not a ski club at SFU, and I'm like, why don't I start a ski club as a way to meet new people? And I remember I went to the clubs day, and I was just starting this club. It was just me at the time. And I had my own little table. It was inside of the Convocation Mall up on the Burnaby campus. Yeah. And I was totally unprepared. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I took a piece of paper and I taped it to my table. And I wrote like first name, email address, phone number, and I wrote the numbers 1, 2, 3, up to 10, expecting I'll get like 10 people to sign up. And because it was just me, I had to go to class. So I took off to go to class. And then I came back like 2.5, 3 hours later, and I had about 150 people sign up over the first 3 hours. And I was like, this is awesome, I have myself a ski club. So I taped my second piece of paper to the desk, and I'm like, I'm gonna start expanding this thing. And I think after the first few days, I had about 250 people sign up, but it was an awesome experience, like, because I was the president. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was the president. I recruited an executive, which was a pretty crazy experience. I started collecting membership fees because I figured, why not?
Also good.
Yeah, right. We started throwing like keg parties. We did some amazing trips around BC. I had to set up like a treasury role. Like I learned so much about entrepreneurship as the president of the ski club. And here's the coolest thing. I was up at SFU in the AQ about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I was going past another club's day, and the SFU ski club was still there. And I was like, get out of here. And I rolled up, I'm like, so like, what's this all about? And they started telling me about the ski club. And I'm like, who founded this? And they're like, we have no idea, right? And I'm like, so how long has this been around? They're like, I don't know, a couple of years. And I'm like, anyway, I didn't say who I was or anything, but I was strangely deeply proud of that achievement. Like it left a legacy. We set these things up, and they have very, very long tail to them. Like there's lots of experiences that can unfurl a lot of them.
I'm told in your first company there's also SFU prof involved somehow.
Yep.
How'd that work out?
And
who was he?
Yeah, as a fellow named David Gibbons. I'm pretty sure he still teaches business. So like when we started the first business, we had no money, we had no experience, and we had no network. And my business partner, Bart, was good friends with a prof named David. And David became our first mentor advisor, and he gave us feedback on our business plan. He gave us feedback on our sales strategy. He gave us feedback on everything, and he was just like he was a really good sounding board. And he's also really encouraging, because you start these things and you're not sure whether they're going to work or not. And he just was massively encouraging. And to this day, we went out for beers with him about a month ago, and it's awesome. We're still in really close contact, and he's still really supportive. And between the beginning of the relationship and the end of the relationship, as we matured the business, he started sending us like really big deals, like big sales, big business opportunities. And we didn't start the relationship to I never wanted any money from the guy, but like it was just cool to see how his trust in us built such that he was sending us business and referrals. So it had a really big impact on Bart and I and the businesses in general.
So note to everyone in here, good to be on good terms with your profs, just so you know. They're pretty impressive and they're very nice people.
Yes.
So, did you receive any other mentorship or guidance along the way?
Yeah, tons. So my favorite mentor was this guy named Cam Landell. He ran a traditional advertising agency, and my company Title partnered with his company, and I spent like years in boardroom tables with Cam learning how to pitch and do big deals. And it's weird, it's spooky when you're trying to pitch like a $100, $200, $500,000 deal because you don't know what the hell you're doing, but seeing somebody else do that in front of you, and like I learned a ton from Cam for many years. And then more recently, Greg Malpass, he's actually one of my mentors, and another guy named Jim Heppel who runs a hedge fund as well. So I still seek out mentorship now, and it's super helpful.
What is the founding story of, let's go with Bucketlist?
Yeah, okay. So like I really believe in the power of goal setting. I actually do a call with my brother every Friday where we talk about what are our goals for the coming week, and did you achieve the goals from the past week, and what are the big goals for the year. So every Friday we get on the phone and we chat for like 30 minutes or so. And for a while we're using an Excel sheet to track our goals, and it's horrible technology, right? We just made an Excel sheet to keep track of all this stuff. And I was complaining about this Excel sheet to my friend Paul, and he's like, why don't you do something about that? Why don't you fix it? I'm like, I'm going to, right? I'm like, I'm gonna build a tool or find a tool to help people set and track goals. And I came back and I told my business partner Bart about it. I was like, dude, I have this idea. What about a goal setting tool? And he's like, sounds good. And we started like searching for goal setting tools, bucket list tools. We actually found a site. It was called bucketlist.org. It was like very rudimentary, like super. It was a great idea, very poorly executed. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what about buying this? And he's like, dude, I love that idea. Why don't we do it? And so I started looking up the founder, and I was doing a bunch of research on who the owner was. And Bart found the phone number and called the guy within like the first 5 minutes. And it turns out it was a fella from like San Francisco, from Berkeley, named Scott Hacker. And Bart's like, hey, I'm Bart from Canada. Do you want to sell your website? And the guy's like, maybe. And then we're like, and then we fast forward 3 months later, we flew down to meet him, and we actually bought it off of him. And we took that and grew it very quickly. So that was how it all kind of came together, the whole story.
So what is the biggest aspiration you have for this venture? What does it look like in your wildest dreams?
Unlike my other businesses, it has the biggest opportunity to help people. So from an end user perspective, we want to help 100 million people achieve a life goal, which is a lot of people. We currently have 300,000 people on the site, and we get about 30 to 50,000 completed goals every month. So we're about 0.6% of the way through our journey, but like we've got to start, and I really believe in the concept and project. And it's also growing fast too. So, and the only reason I mention that is like as an entrepreneur, you look for early wins. Like how do you know whether this thing's on track or off track? And every month we get about 8,000 new members joining the site, and we don't do any marketing. It's all inbound or referrals. So like we haven't quite figured the concept out, especially when it comes to the monetization. But I see all these early signs that it could be something very significant and like very meaningful.
So people often talk about company pivots. We talk about pivoting all the time in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So have you experienced these pivots, and what did they look like?
When we started out, I wanted it to be a goal setting tool because that's what I wanted, like a way to track and in a very granular way break a big task down into many little steps. Mm-hmm. But it turns out not a lot of people wanted that. So what I wanted, I was addressing my own pain point, isn't what the end user wanted. And also it's really interesting when it comes to setting big goals. A lot of people fail. Like when it comes to New Year's resolutions, roughly 96% of people will not successfully achieve their goals. So things like quitting smoking, losing weight, those are hard things to achieve. Mm-hmm. So very early on, we pivoted away from just strictly a goal setting tool to more of an inspiration tool, meaning we want to provide really great quality ideas that people could then achieve. And then very recently, we pivoted again, because if you look at our current site, you'll see all sorts of things like climb Mount Everest or see the Great Wall of China, fall in love, get married. And those are like big life goals, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you only achieve those once, maybe twice in your lifetime. And so what we've done again is we're pivoting to highly local experiences. So for instance, in Vancouver, there's some like amazing things you can do in our own backyard. So like a lot of people know about the grouse grind. Not everybody likes it, right? But like another 100 feet down that same trail is something called the BCMT Trail, which is totally uncrowded, I think even more beautiful. And I'm always like, why don't people know about these activities? So Bucketlist, we're going to pivot to highly local, very unique experiences. And we're doing a bunch of testing right now with real end users to see whether that's going to stick. And so far, it's been like lots of positive feedback.
What advice do you wish someone had given you back when you were in your final year of university?
There's lots of really smart people who've already gone through the journey, whether you want to build like a 1 million, 10 million, or $100 million company. And so here's the crazy thing is the answers are already out there. They're typically inside of books or inside of people's heads. And whatever you want to do, there's probably a person who's done that. So seek that person out and build a relationship with them and try to set up a mentorship type of role. Because you can cut years, you can save yourself years and thousands of dollars by doing the right things at the right time. And you can get that information from books or online research or a person, but I find people are the best ways to do it. So get a great mentor to support you in your exact and specific goal or thing you want to achieve.
And how do you build a good relationship with a mentor? Because you hear people come up to someone they think will be their mentor and be, will you be my mentor?
Yeah.
That seems like probably not the best way to go about building a genuine relationship. So how do you do that?
I think most people love to help other people who are really serious. Like I think people are pretty darn good when you meet them. But at the same time, like if somebody's a fairly successful entrepreneur, there has to be an exchange of value. And that doesn't mean you pay them, but maybe you just you thank them. Maybe you build a relationship where you can add value to their life. Maybe they like skiing and you buy them a couple lift tickets. I don't even know what it is. So even with my mentor, with Greg Melpass, he does not need anything financial from me, but the first time I met with him, I brought him a bottle of scotch, right? The second time I met with him, I brought a whole bunch of donuts for his team members. And I was already friends with Greg up front through an organization called, again, EO. But I built a friendship with him. And then, because it seemed like we're similar sorts of dudes, I was just like, hey, Greg, you've done a lot of the things I want to do. Would you mind mentoring me? And the way I specifically structured it is it's a 1 hour meeting each month. And I have like a little template where I go through my goals for the coming month, things that I achieved in the past month. So it doesn't take up much of his time. And then I also try to do little things to add value to his life as well.
So you're a pretty process-oriented guy then?
Yes, I love processes.
Do you think that's important in being an entrepreneur?
Oh, yes, yeah. Successful business is about getting the right people into the bus, into the right seats, right? Yeah. It's about getting them to do the right things at the right time, which is systems and processes, and then having the cash to facilitate that whole experience. And systems and processes define the experience, right? Say Starbucks. Okay, I like Starbucks. There we go. Okay. And you get a Pike Place in Seattle, Vancouver, San Francisco. It's the exact same thing. Although in the States they have an extra large size now. It's ridiculous. But outside of that, you have a very consistent look and feel. The coffee tastes identical, which is exactly what people want, because people want consistency from your brand. Because they form a relationship with your brand and your company. So systems and processes ensure massive consistency on large scale.
All right, so this is good to know, because a lot of people think that entrepreneurs are cowboys and big into taking chances. And it sounds like there's a lot of process behind what looks like a lot of chance taking. So
that's actually, so yes, entrepreneurs are cowboys and can be crazy, but a lot of times you'll find a really strong operational person, like a COO, supporting them in their crazy vision and making sure that there's alignment and things get executed very, very well.
What is something that people often think to be true around entrepreneurship that you know to be false?
I'd probably go back to that earlier question, is that you have to reinvent the wheel, or you have to do something groundbreaking. Way before Facebook was MySpace, and they had market traction. They had 30 million members, something like that. And along comes Facebook, and they just made the experience a little bit better. And they started with a smaller local networks, and they grew like crazy. And they absolutely wiped out, didn't wipe out, but they massively dominated a market. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to do a few things a little bit better. And then it normally comes down to execution. And again, the execution isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about finding the right people to support you, like a mentor, or finding the right tasks, which you can do from online research or books.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like luck plays into this very much.
I think luck can, but I think for the true, those meteoric like success stories, I think there's some luck at the outset sometimes, but they're being executed by like rock star entrepreneurs. Like what Zuckerberg did with Facebook, like to take a company from 0 to $1 million is quite challenging. So about 4% of companies make it from $0 to $1 million. From 1 million to 10 million, it's 0.04%. And then from 10 to 100 million, it's like thousands of companies. And then to go from that to $1 billion is unbelievable. So as an entrepreneur, he's like out of this world.
What is the most interesting innovation that has come out in the last 5 or 10 years, in your opinion?
In my opinion, if anybody ever wants to play with a really cool tool, there's a website called Crystal Knows.
Crystal Knows.
Crystalknows.com, and it's like a crystal ball and the word know, as if I know something. And you can look up somebody's name, and Crystal Knows will go out and suck in all their social profiles. So it'll pull in like your LinkedIn information. If you're active on Twitter, it'll pull in Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds, and it'll tell me how I should interact with you and how you will typically act in a given situation. And it's really powerful if you're a salesperson. So for instance, if I wanted to sell to you, I can learn how to write emails to you. I can learn what type of language I should use with you. I can learn whether you want to talk about yourself or you're a big picture person or all about the facts. It's crazy. And this is available like here and now, and it's free. I do not represent them. I'm just blown away by them. It's like, I can't, and like that's just the beginning of it. So I think over time, computers and robots are going to be taking on some very significant roles, more significant roles in our life.
That's very exciting and slightly frightening.
Yeah, try it out. It's like run it on yourself first, and you'd be like, whoa.
Were there any advantage of being a student entrepreneur?
I was gonna say no, but yeah. Hold on. I don't want to discourage anybody, but the coolest thing of all is like when I was a student, I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have any debt other than my student loan, and I didn't have any like obligations or expectations. So like, I was like, what's the worst thing that could happen? I could fail, and like, who cares, right? The risk factor was really, really low. There was no whereas if I decided to start out my entrepreneurial journey now, like there's mortgages, the family, now a baby, like the risks go way, 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 way up.
How do you deal with failure? Now we talk about failure in a very positive way here.
Yeah.
So failure is an experience to learn.
Yeah.
We just had Trevor Blackwell, who's the founder of Y Combinator, in, and he said entrepreneurs got to be used to failing 70% of the time.
Totally, yeah.
So I don't ask this with any negativity around it.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with failure?
So now much better. When you asked me earlier about pivots, have I ever pivoted? Like a pivot's a reflection of a failure typically, right? Like something's not going right and like I want to make it better. So it's all about making small corrections over time. So like specifically, how do I deal with failure? I typically go through like a brief period of being frustrated and being sad or low, and then I very quickly pick my socks up, and often in the same day I'm fired up about like how we're going to address this particular issue or problem. So it's just always trying to stay focused on like how do I fix this, right?
What are some other good books you would highly recommend for entrepreneurs?
Okay, good. So great question. I love books. So I think as an SFU student, there are no sales courses, but and a lot of people, when they hear the word sales, you think of like a used car salesman. But like sales is so important as an entrepreneur because you're often selling your vision to your team, right? Mm-hmm. You're selling your vision to customers. And so learning how to do sales successfully is a really important skill. So there's one book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, I think. Another one is called Top Grading for Sales, because even if you suck at sales, which is totally okay, there's a process for hiring really great quality salespeople who can then execute that activity on your behalf. There's another book called Scaling Up, which is a book that I know a lot of entrepreneurs use as a blueprint. Mm-hmm. It's like 150 pages long, and it's broken up into small chapters, and it teaches you in 10 pages, gives you an exercise on how to define your core values. It teaches you how to write a one-page business plan. It teaches you how to do quarterly meetings, and it's all like small chunks. What else is really good? And then there's a good book called From Good to Great, and another one is 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Yeah. And one last one, the E-Myth.
The E-Myth.
Yeah, E-Myth is all about building systems and processes so that you can scale a business. Because like a lot of times people let's say you have the best artists in the world, mm-hmm. and they're like just crazy out of this world, right? Like the quality of the work's amazing. Just because they can produce something amazing doesn't mean they can become a successful entrepreneur, right? So if you follow the tips and guides in all these books, it'll teach you how to set a vision, how to get a team underneath you that's aligned to that vision, and then how to scale it with consistent business or consistent systems and processes.
Well, on that note, shall we all thank the founder of SFU Ski Club, Jason Lidstrom.